Boom, win the game. Awesome. So welcome to the call, everybody, man. If you didn't feel that energy, if you didn't feel that wind, your jacket must have been too big because I felt it through the Wi-Fi. So I'm excited about everything that's happening. And like I said, if you weren't on the call at the beginning, I'm going to just say it again. Like, we haven't even really felt the wind yet. Like, we feel it, but you know how you outside and you feel the wind, but it ain't really air. Then you keep going, you keep moving into that path of where the wind is coming from. Then you really start to feel it. That's what's happening right now. When we had the first call, when we started talking about the supernatural stuff, first of all, the date was never given. I never said when the 60 days actually started. I'm here to tell you that the 60 days start on the 1st of April, and that's when we're really going to see wind for a strong minute. It's going to be 6 days of strong wind. If you're sharing your screen, can you please stop? Let me just go ahead and boom. Perfect. So it's going to be a strong wind, like a very strong wind. But here's one thing I know about the wind that we're about to get. Like, some wind can be destructive, but some wind can also be peaceful. Right? Some wind can be destructive, but some wind can be peaceful. That peaceful, when you walk outside and that calm breeze just hits you and it makes you feel like, man, everything is all good. That's the type of wind that we're about to walk into. So if you're excited for that, drop some wind in the chat box. And again, listen, you want to have your notes out on this call, especially if you're new. This is your first call. A lot of this information is going to be different for you. Right? It's going to be new information, is going to be different, but I promise you it's going to hit you where it needs to hit you at so that you can get understanding about what this whole supernatural stuff means. So at the beginning, I had the supernatural creed up. I hope you screenshotted it. If you didn't screenshot it, just get it from somebody, because that's the language that you want to be speaking, right? And we're going to get to that in a second. Matter of fact, I'm about to jump into it now, because before I move on and dive into what I want to dive into, I want to backdrop and give more context on the steps to actually tapping into the supernatural, right? Because a lot of people may have missed it, but I want to make sure that we get them again. So the first step, right, is you have to be aware of the supernatural God. That's the first step for you to live a supernatural life and get supernatural results in every single area of your life. For you to touch things and automatically turn into gold and you get the great results that you want, you first have to be aware of the supernatural God. The second step is dealing with faith. You have to trust the supernatural God. That's the second step. For you to live a supernatural life, you got to trust that the supernatural God is going to make things happen for you. The third step is you got to realize your oneness. Like, God is not apart from me. God lives inside of me. And because he lives inside of me, I have supernatural power and I can do the same exact things that he can do. I can create just like him. I can move things out the way just like him. I can make ways out. Listen, I can do the same thing that he can do. I have that same supernatural power inside of me. So I got to realize that I'm not apart from God, but he lives inside of me. That's the third way to tap into the supernatural. The fourth way is going to be through your language. Right? It's going to be through those words. It's going to be through what you're saying every single day, pushing you in the right direction. Because here's the deal. Words are seeds, right? And they give birth to feelings. Words are seeds and they give birth to feelings. See, if you haven't been feeling supernatural, it's because you probably haven't been speaking supernatural like you should be. Because every time you speak it, a seed is now sown and it's going to give birth to some type of feeling, right? And that works for the good and it works for the bad, right? So the fifth step is through your gratitude. The fifth step is going to be through your gratitude, a constant flow of gratitude, right? A constant flow of gratitude. Let me make sure these lines are right. A constant flow of gratitude, thanking God for the good and the bad, because even when it's all bad, it's still good, right? And if you think it's all bad, you'll miss how it's actually good because your perspective is off. So I got to be aware. I got to trust. I got to realize my oneness. I got to have the right language. These are my affirmations, right? And then I got to be grateful. I got to show gratitude for this supernatural process and everything that comes along with it. And the final step is I have to play my movie. I got to play my movie, right? I got to visualize what I want to materialize. I got to see in my mind before I can hold it in my hand. All right. So I got to visualize everything that I want to happen. Here's the deal. Here's where we move into the call, right? All of that takes faith. Everything that I just said takes faith. If I'm going to be aware of the supernatural God, that takes faith. I got to believe in something I can't see. Trust in something I can't see, that takes faith. Realize my oneness, that takes faith. What's my next step? Having the language, right? Boom, that takes faith. Gratitude for good and bad, that takes faith. And then playing my movie, believing in something, again, this image that I want to manifest in my life, this desire, I got to play this every day. To play that every single day and to believe that it's done, guess what that takes? That takes faith. All right. So what's my point? The first thing you want to write down, if you haven't written down anything yet, is that faith is the starting point, right? It's the genesis of the supernatural. Faith is the starting point, or the genesis, because they mean the same thing, beginning, right? The genesis of the supernatural, right? So what is faith? Faith is the assurance, right? The assurance, the confirmation, the receipt of something that I'm hoping for, but it's evidence of something that I have not seen yet, right? So it's confirmation. It's a receipt, if you will, right? That's why we talk about writing stuff down, because when you write it down, you have a receipt to prove that you really believe in something that has not materialized yet, but the proof of it is in what I've written down. The proof of it is what I'm speaking. The proof of it is what I'm saying, right? That's going to be the proof that I really believe, right? Based on my words, my feelings, my emotions, and the things that I'm writing down, right? So faith, the assurance of something that I'm hoping for, the substance, one text says the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. Substance, when you think about substance, you think about something that you can hold, something that you can feel. Again, the receipt, writing things down to make it, to bring something out of the spiritual world or the supernatural world down into the physical world. Everything that we create, guys, is going to be created 3 times. Right? Everything that we're going to create is going to be created 3 times. It's going to be created, number 1, in our mind. Right? If you create something without seeing it first, 9 times out of 10, it was an accident. And if you have to go back and do it again, you probably couldn't. All right. So we have to see it first, and then we write it down. Once we write it down, we've now brought it from the supernatural world down into the physical world. The next step that we're waiting on is materialization. Right. That's the 3rd step. So we think it, we write it, and then it materializes. So again, everything is naturally created 3 times. Again, that takes faith for you to believe. All right. That takes faith for you to believe. See, faith enables you to believe in the unbelievable. All right. See, you going chairman, you cracking a 6-figure income, right? You probably wouldn't be able to believe that without faith. But because of your faith, you're now able to actually believe it. All right. See, when a lot of entrepreneurs get started on their journey, they don't know what the journey entails. They just know what the ending looks like. And because they know what the ending looks like, they can do all of the work that's required today. All right. They can do all of the work that's required today because they can borrow from that vision. They can borrow from that future. Right. And that's why it's important that you have a future. That's why it's important that you have a vision. That's why it's important that you know what you're aiming for, because when you know what you're aiming for, you can pull from that vision and start doing the work that you need to do today to get it done. Because here's the deal. There's nothing on earth that you can't have. There's nothing on earth that you can't have. The challenge for people is getting their faith to a place where they can believe that everything is already done in spirit. That's the challenge. See, there's nothing that you can't have. Nothing. Because it says that all things are possible. Not some things, not a few things, not small things, but all things. So there's nothing that you can imagine that you can't hold in your hand. But again, the challenge is for people, faith, to get to a place where they really believe that it's possible. Because again, faith is going to be the starting point. It's going to be the genesis of the supernatural. Right? So how do I begin to get my faith to get to that level? Well, we're going to talk about that. But before I give you that, I need you to understand that you having faith, right? You believing in the supernatural, you having a desire that's deeply rooted in your heart. This is going to be the only way that you're going to be able to access supernatural power. Right? Listen to me. Because it's faith that gives you the ability to believe in the supernatural. That's what your faith allows you to do. Faith gives you the ability to believe in the supernatural. Now, what's so important about the supernatural and the supernatural world? Here's the deal. The supernatural world, the supernatural realm is the place where all things are possible. That's the place where God lives at. See, God doesn't live in time. He's not confounded to time. He confined to time. He transcends time. He lives in eternity. Well, eternity is the supernatural world. In the supernatural world, this is where all your goals are done. This is where all your dreams are done. This is where all your desires are done. All of it's done. But again, the challenge is for people to believe that the goals are actually done. That is really meant for them. Because when you really start to believe that, what your faith allows you to do is compress time frames. Listen to me. When you begin to really understand that your goals are done in the supernatural world, it allows you to compress time frames, because what happens is your belief gets so big, your faith gets so strong, you pull what's been hanging there in the supernatural world down to the physical world. That's how goals manifest. Like that's how, remember, you don't get a goal, you grow into a goal. Your faith grows into the goal. Your personality grows into the goal. Your belief level grows into the goal. And when that happens, it now materializes in the physical form faster than it could have if you didn't believe. So your faith is going to compress time, right? And the key with faith is you cannot live using your five senses, right? You won't be able to live using your five senses if you want to live in the place of faith. Why? Because your faith surpasses every sense. So your faith surpasses what your eyes see. Your faith surpasses what your hands can feel, what you can smell. Your faith surpasses all of that. That's why it talks about your faith being connected to the subconscious mind, your subconscious mind being the only way to access God. Right? So if you try to use human logic to understand the supernatural, it won't work. See, if you try to use your faulty human knowledge from a broken school system to believe in the supernatural, it won't work. See, common knowledge and human reasoning is the quickest way to cut off your supernatural power. When human reason is present, faith is absent. When human reason is present, faith is absent. Human reason and logic can't exist. Why? Because faith forces you to believe in something that you cannot see. Right? It forces you to believe in something that's really not there. But when you put, when you put your faith there, it brings what's invisible to the visible. That's what it allows you to do. Because again, we have two worlds. So we have a natural world, man, it's so good. We have a natural world and we have a supernatural world. We have the physical world and we also have a spiritual world. Man, this is about to get so good because I'm about to take you back to the very first call. Man, how many people got on the line? 465. Don't go nowhere. Listen, on the first call, we talked about how God created spirit. He created man. He created spirit first, and then he formed man, right? He created man in spirit, and then he formed man in another verse, right? So he didn't create them at the same time. He created in spirit, and then he formed in the physical. But when he created in the spirit, I need you to listen to me. When he created in the spirit, he gave instructions to the spirit, and he told spirit that he had dominion, he had rule, ownership over everything out there. He had it. He's talking to the spirit. Listen to me. He's talking to the spirit. Listen to me. He's talking to the spirit. The spirit had dominion over everything. The spirit had control over everything. Man, this is about to get so good. And then he formed man. And then man ate from the tree when man wasn't supposed to eat from the tree. And then man lost dominion. When they talk about the fall of man, they lost dominion. What happened was the knowledge came. Listen to me. The knowledge came of good and evil. Before, they only knew good. Before, they had complete dominion. Afterwards, the dominion was lost. What am I telling you? The dominion that you have, the control that you have, the rulership that you have, it lies in spirit. This is good. This is already good. Danielle Mason, did you feel that? Like, because I don't think everybody caught it. See, He created, I need you to go back with me. He created in spirit. He formed then in the physical the next day, right? When he created in spirit, Brittany Jack, he told the spirit man that I've given you dominion over the fish in the sea. You have control, ownership, blah, 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 blah. You the man, you have control of everything. Because at this point, they only knew good. They didn't know bad. Listen to me. Before this, Adam didn't know anything bad. He only knew good. He was created in spirit. But then as soon as they sinned and ate from the tree, now they had knowledge of good and evil. When they got knowledge of good and evil, they lost dominion in the physical world because their spirit was afflicted, right? So you got to understand the power of the spirit that you already possess, that lives on the inside of you, because that spirit on the inside of you can't fail, because that spirit on the inside of you has already won. The goals have already been manifested in the supernatural world. It's your job to believe, listen to me, it's your job to believe, and that's what actually manifests the goal. That's why faith is the genesis, the starting point of all things supernatural. Without the faith, you won't be able to manifest the supernatural. You're going to live a normal, average life. Nothing wrong with that. But when you know when the mind is like a trash bag, once it's been expanded past its current form, it can never go back. See, once you become aware of the supernatural, you never want to live a natural life again. See, that's the thing about supernatural. Once you get exposed to it, it'll ruin every single excuse. It'll ruin every excuse for me to want to be natural, because I've been exposed to the supernatural. I've been exposed to something. I've been exposed to new information, a new world that is over, right? That's what super means, over and above and beyond the natural world. That's what supernatural means, over and above and beyond the natural world. And in this supernatural world, time doesn't exist. Lack doesn't exist. Sickness doesn't exist. Everything is supernatural. But it takes faith for me it takes faith for me to not only just go there, but it takes faith for me to actually live there. Man, it takes faith for me to go there, but it takes even more faith for me to actually live there. When I live there, I now have complete power, because I'm living in a place where everybody can't get to. I'm living in a place where distractions can't get to me. Why? Because I live in a supernatural world, and in the supernatural world, there's no such thing as distractions. There's no such thing as lack and poverty. There's no such thing. Everything is abundant in the supernatural world. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, you got to really understand that it's going to be your faith that manifests everything that you want. Are y'all tracking with me right now? Drop some wind and let me know if you're tracking with me right now. Because here's the deal. When you understand this, it's game over. It's literally game over. So how does faith work? Faith, number one, works through acceptance. Faith, number one, works through acceptance. See, for me to be successful in faith, I got to be willing to accept the fact, accept that God is able, he's willing, and he's eager to help me. But we must show our acceptance through cooperation. Man, to be successful in faith, I got to be willing, right, to accept the fact that God is not only willing, he's not only able, but he's eager to help us. But we got to show our cooperation, right, through acceptance. We got to show our acceptance through our cooperation. How do we cooperate? Well, we got to trust that God is fulfilling everything right now. Every supernatural goal, every supernatural desire, everything that we want, he's not fulfilling it tomorrow. He's fulfilling it right now. Why? Because it's first fulfilled in spirit. And in spirit, there's no such thing as time. So that means he's fulfilling the goal now. And we have to accept that because our faith is going to work through our acceptance. All right. Second key about faith. Faith works through love. Faith works through love. Not only must I love God, but I gotta also love other people. I gotta love the organization. I gotta love the company. I gotta love everything that I'm doing to get supernatural results in the field that I want to be successful in. See, when pride is present, love doesn't exist. When ego is present, love doesn't exist. When anger is present, love doesn't exist. When anger is present, love does not exist, right? Step number 3, or the third key, faith increases through knowledge. Faith increases through knowledge. Whatever area you're ignorant in is the area you're going to suffer in. Whatever area you're ignorant in is going to be the area that you suffer in. See, if I'm so focused on making money, but I'm not focused on the principles, I'm going to suffer. My man in the chat box, calm down, we're getting to it. Because if I'm not knowledgeable on the spiritual principles of success, there's no way that I can maintain success in the physical world. Man. So when faith increases through knowledge, see, continuous knowledge will take us to higher dimensions of faith. Continuous knowledge will take us to higher dimensions of faith. Because here's the deal. The amount of understanding that you have determines the level of faith that you're going to operate in. Yep. The amount of understanding that you have determines the level of faith that you operate in. See, if my understanding about faith is low, the level of faith that I operate in is low. That means the results that I get are low. So if I'm focused more so on the outer game of success, where's the money? But I'm not focused on the inner game of success, I'm never going to be able to keep the money. Ask me how I know. I've been through it. So it's going to be continuous knowledge that's going to take you to higher dimensions of faith. See, you must not only get knowledge concerning faith, but you also got to get knowledge concerning your business. Like, you got to be knowledgeable about the business. You got to be knowledgeable about trading. You have to have knowledge, because if I don't have knowledge, if I'm ignorant in that area, I'm going to suffer in that area, because the amount of my understanding determines the amount of the level of faith I can choose to operate in that. Right? See, the good book talks about going faith to faith, right? So what I got from that is you're not supposed to stay at the same level of faith. Like it says, go faith to faith, glory to, so you don't operate at one level of faith. You listen, you go from faith to faith, and then when you go from faith to faith, now there's glory, and then another level of glory. So you gotta constantly, right, and be increasing your knowledge on principles, man. Not just faith, but you gotta be constantly increasing your knowledge about the business, about trading, right, prospecting, presenting, closing, all of the know-hows and techniques that you need to be successful. You got to constantly improve and get better and increase your knowledge base, because faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. It's not blind faith. There's no such thing as blind faith, because the strength of a person's faith is as only as strong as the credibility of the person that they're putting it in. The strength of a person's faith is as only strong as the credibility of the person that they're putting it in. See, let me say I had a cousin named Bob, right? And Bob was incredible. If I asked Bob to do something, I'm already knowing in the back of my mind that it's not going to get done. Why? Because Bob is incredible. So the strength of a person's faith is as only as strong as the person that they're putting it in. See, if I were to ask my wife to do something, because me and my wife, I know her credibility is there, guess what? my faith is going to be stronger that she's going to be able to get the job done because I know her credibility. I know her track record. All right. It's a lot more to that, but I'm going to leave that where it's at. Right. The strength of a person's faith is as only strong as the person that they're putting it into. So if I have blind faith, that's not enough for me to get a breakthrough. I got to have some type of understanding about what I'm doing. I can't go into the markets blind. I can't go into the markets blind. I can't do an event and I don't know how to present. So my faith has to have some basis of understanding for it to actually work. Because if it doesn't, I'm just out here and I'm just moving. What would happen? Listen to me. What would happen if I start running around outside with blinders on my face? What would happen? That's what blind faith looks like. But see, when I take the blinders off and I can see, and somebody said the Rona is going to get you, and I can see, it's different, right? So now, why was it important that I gave you all of that about faith? This is where the call gets good for the next 10 minutes. Listen. I spoke with the weatherman today. I spoke with the weatherman today, literally a few times today. And he told me it's about to get really windy. He told me there's going to be strong winds from the four winds. That's too deep for this call. But he told me it's about to be a strong gust of wind from the four winds. Now, dang, man, this is so good. This is so good because as I'm talking to the weatherman outside on my balcony, he told me something. And this is why I had to give all the knowledge about faith, right? Because he told me the higher, this is so good, Cliff Austin. He said the higher your level of faith will play in direct proportion on how you feel the effects of the wind. The higher your level of faith, the more you feel the effects of the wind. Now, let me give you some premise. Let me give you a concept. See, if I'm standing outside and I'm on the ground, I'm going to feel the wind, but I'm not going to be able to feel the wind because there's so many buildings around. It's so many distractions around. I'm on this low level. But when I go up, and there's not that many distractions, I just feel the wind. So the higher your level of faith will determine how hard the wind will hit you. Now, that doesn't mean if your faith is low, you won't feel the wind because you're still going to feel the wind. But my question is, how much wind do you really want to feel? How much wind do you really want to feel? Right? And like I said earlier, see, wind can be destructive, but wind can also be peaceful. The wind that we're about to experience is going to be very peaceful, but it's going to be a very strong wind. And the strong wind is not to destroy anything, but the strong wind is to send us forward farther than we could have went without the wind. That's what the wind is for. See, you can't see the wind, but you know it's there. You can't see the wind, but you see the effects of the wind. You can't see the wind, but you feel the effects of the wind. You can't see the wind, but you feel the effects of the wind. You can't see God, but you feel the effects. Because here's one thing about the wind. See, the wind symbolizes something, and the wind symbolizes spirits. Man, the wind symbolizes spirits. And when spirit is ready to blow on something, there's nothing that can stop it. I like to think about David. We all know the story. David and Goliath, right? And it's just so crazy to believe that a 12, 13-year-old kid can take down a 9-foot giant with a slingshot and a rock. But when you think about the wind, you begin to think like, man, what if that was the wind? What if that was spirit with an extra speed, with some extra speed behind the rock? Because if you know the story, everything was covered except his head. And so I'm just putting myself in the text, and I'm thinking, man, if I'm going to fight a giant, I'm probably going to be a little bit nervous. Even though I got faith, I'm still going to be scared, because faith doesn't mean fear doesn't exist. Faith just says that you do it in spite of the fear anyway, because fear and spirit of fear are two completely different things. So I can have fear, but I can't have a spirit of fear. That was a whole bar if you caught it. Whew! When David pulls back the slingshot, the rock literally was traveling, and for some reason the rock didn't, lose momentum. It doesn't say how far he was away, but there had to be a little bit of distance, right? He brought like 5, but he only used 1. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, he pulls the slingshot back, and the rock just moves. And again, the giant is covered in every area but his head. So the rock didn't lose momentum and fall and hit him in the chest. The rock it wasn't too much wind where the rock couldn't stay like in straight. It stayed straight. That means there was enough wind from the east, and there was enough wind from the west, and there was enough wind coming behind it. And there was just amount of wind enough where it wasn't pushing it away. And it hit him straight where no armor was covering him, straight in the head. So what's my point outside of that? Outside of the fact that the wind can knock over any challenge that's in front of you. But secondly, after you knock over the challenge, after you slay the beast, the giant, the mental block in front of you, after that comes promotion. Because after that, David was promoted. He never went back to live with his family. He never went back to live with his family. So could it be that there was a supernatural wind behind the rock and guiding the rock, so it didn't go to the left and that it didn't go to the right, but it stayed on one course, one path to do what it was set out to do because of his faith? While everybody else was scared, all right? But then guess what? There's more. Also got to reading, because I need you to understand how powerful this wind is, because I don't want you just posting it and saying it's windy, but you don't really understand what this wind can actually do. So I was also reading good man by the name of Ezekiel, and it was talking about how God needed him to share a vision, to share a word with his people, with God's people. And in order for him to do that, he gave him a vision. And in his vision, he took him to a valley where everything was dead. It was nothing but bones. He took him to a valley and he told him to speak, right? To the bones, to speak to the dead thing. Like something in your life may need a little bit of reviving. Something in your business may need some more life. All you got to do is speak to it, right? All you got to do is speak to it, right? So then at the very end of the conversation, after he spoke to the bones, you know what God told him? God said, now speak to the four winds. Speak to the four winds and tell the wind to send breath into these bodies. And when he spoke to the wind did what he said. And the four winds, the spirit came. Ah, man, y'all don't even hear me right now. Because in order for you to really understand what this wind is about, you got to get why we're using wind. Like you got to know why we're using the wind. Speak to the wind. And the wind did what he spoke. So why don't you speak to the wind? I've been speaking to the wind. Man, but you know what? You know what, Ariel? That wasn't the only, that wasn't the only evidence that I found of the wind. So we saw two things with the wind. We saw that the wind can defeat a challenge, destroy an enemy, whatever you want to call it. And it also leads to promotion afterwards. We also saw that the wind can send life into a dead thing, right? Also, let's not forget the story of creation when God breathed his breath, wind, into Adam, and Adam, that's a whole nother word. The last thing that I saw to support my claim is so good because we see promotion, we see protection, we see revitalization. But the fourth thing, I believe that this is the most important thing. This is where we see a way made out of no way. Because somebody on the call, you're probably thinking, like, man, I don't know how this is going to get done. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know how I'm going chairman. I don't know how I'm going to learn how to do this trading stuff. If you felt like that before, just drop an IDK in the chat. Like, because I'm about to free you in the next 2 minutes, right? I'm about to free you in the next 2 minutes because we see what the wind can do. But man, this should free you. This should make you feel really good because the wind is about to blow for 60 days. It's going to be a strong wind for 60 days, right? Now, after that 60 days, I don't know what happens. I just know for 60 days, we got some good wind and it's moving in our favor. And everything that we do is just going to be blown on, right? So let me give you again. We got protection, we got promotion, we got resurrection, if you want to call that, revitalization, whatever you want to call it, right? But the last one, this is where we see the wind making a way when there was no way. Let me read it to you. Then Moses said to the people, don't be afraid. This is so good. Don't be afraid. Take your stand and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. Let me scroll on down. Let me scroll on down. Let me scroll on down. This is about to blow you away. When I saw this, I was messed up. Y'all ready? We got protection. We got promotion. He'll kill a giant, challenge, and give life to a dead thing. But after saying all of that, he will also make a way when there was no way. Then Moses raised his hand over the sea, Brittany Jack, and the Lord opened a path through the water, Geo McCoy, with the strong east wind. The wind blew all night, turning the seabed into dry land. So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground with walls of water on each side. All right, I'm done. I'm done. Finito. Done. Play with the wind if you want to. Play with the wind if you want to. Now, let me give you context. See, it's 11:02, about to hop off the line. They were freed from slavery, the children of Israel. And after they were freed, the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, hardened his heart and said, you know, we got to pursue them. So they're going through the wilderness. They're going through the journey, the process. And when they get to a place on the process where they see that it's a dead end, when they see that, I don't know how it's going to happen. When they see that, you know, I just don't see a way, because it's clearly water there. They're coming at us from this way, and surrounded by us is water. So where do we go? Do you know all the children of Israel moaned and complained, and God still did it anyway? He still made a way. But how did he make a way? He made a way with a strong east wind, turning the seabed into dry land. So they walked through the middle of the sea with walls of water on each side. And let me just take it back to the beginning of the call. See, it takes faith for you to live a supernatural. Yeah. It takes a lot of faith. It's the start that's supernatural. Every story that was just shared, it's a story of supernatural activity. But it takes faith to really believe that it can happen for you. So here's the deal, family. There's about to be a strong wind. Strong wind. So what I want you guys to do, right? This is what I need everybody in the line to do. We gotta hop off the call. Somebody said I just DDT their brain. Listen, I need everybody to get a piece of paper, right? I need you to get a piece of paper. This is 2 steps to this. Most people may follow the first step. I'm hoping that everybody follows the second step, because the second step is the most important step, right? This is the first step. The first step is you need to get a piece of paper and you need to write down what you expect to happen in your life by faith over the next 60 days, right? That's what you want to do. You want to write down it, not even just for your business. Like, don't be shallow-minded. Supernatural activity is everywhere. It may not even happen in your business. It may happen in your family life. I would be too shallow-minded to think the supernatural only reflects in this business. So write down what you expect to happen over the next 60 days. Now, remember, it's not about it happening in the next 60 days. It's about you getting your faith to a place where you can believe it. Because when your faith gets to a place where you can believe it, that's when it manifests. All right? So you want to write down everything that you expect to happen. The rank you want, what you expect to happen in your life, relationships, whatever the case may be. All right? This is the second step. This is the second step. The second step is you need to bring it, right, to the call tomorrow morning. Now, I know everybody's not going to do this because everybody's not going to wake up. Some people just don't think it's going to work, whatever the case may be. There's going to be a prayer call tomorrow. You want to bring that to the prayer call tomorrow. You want to bring that to the prayer call tomorrow, because you can't write a supernatural goal down and then not put supernatural activity through prayer behind it. All right. So just for the sake of everybody, we're going to do it on this link tomorrow. So B-Jack, we're going to do it on this link. All right. It's going to be at 9:30. Right. So it's no confusion. Just be on this link at 9:30, because whatever you write down, we're going to war to watch it manifest. 9:30 Eastern. So take the time tonight. If you don't know what it is now, because listen to me, this is serious. I can't even like make up how serious it is. Like, y'all even heard how serious the wind is when it's ready to blow, right? There is no flyer for it, right? We're just gonna gather together tomorrow morning. We've been doing these calls. I think this will be our 3rd or 4th one, right? So just click the link and be on the call. And listen, bring what you expect to happen, because I'm telling you, If you've been around me, you know. So, and last thing, remember what we said at the beginning of the call. Faith, you got to have a receipt, right? You got to have a receipt. When you write it down, you not have a receipt. Faith, the substance of things hoped for, the confirmation of things hoped for. Man, so tomorrow, 9:30 on this link, this is where you need to be. So I pray that everybody got value from the call tonight. We're going to have another call on building the business tomorrow to give out more strategy on building the business. But man, make sure that you're on the call tomorrow if you're serious about living a supernatural life, because we're about to manifest some amazing stuff. So it's at 9:30 tomorrow. I love you all. Let's have a good night. I'll see you guys at the bank. God bless.